What up, guys? Welcome to another legit coding activity. My name's Dr. Schick, and today we are going to discuss arrays and array lists, both 1D and 2D. To begin everything, I'm going to grab a blank Java folder here, and I'm going to put it into my demos project directory. Now, earlier, I just used the notepad in Windows to make a blank text document, and I made the extension of that blank text document .java. And a .java blank text document can be read and compiled by Eclipse. So I'm going to take my blank text document, I'm just going to drag it over to my demo source folder and release it. When I do that, Eclipse says, do I want a copy or do I want a link to that one file? I don't want everything to use the same file. I want to make a copy, so I can make a copy. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to open this copy up. I'm going to change the name of blank Java. I want to change the name of the file to array demo file. And to do that, I'm going to use a refactor command on the blank Java file. To do that, I'm going to left click on it. And when I left click on it, I get a menu. Somewhere in the menu says refactor. It's in the middle. I want to rename this file, so I'm going to choose rename option of refactor. When I do that right now, the name is blank, and I'm going to call it array demo. Now make sure you make your names capitalized, because the underlying class, the defaults or has a convention to capitalize the name of classes. So the array demo class is going to go into this file, so I want the file name to be capitalized. Okay, so file name changes to ArrayDemo.java. We can see it over here on the side. I can double click on array.java, and it's nice and big so everyone can see. When I start a new file, I always like to make comments for this. So this file is called ArrayDemo.java, and the purpose of this file is to explore array lists and arrays for the AP exam. Now on the AP exam, they're going to be asked to insert, delete, and reorder or access elements from arrays and array lists. Insert, delete, access, or reorder elements. And to do that, array lists have a whole bunch of methods. To find methods for array lists, I go to the reference. And the reference is the Oracle Java reference. Oracle Java reference. I've gone there in my Google Chrome. So I'm going to open up a Google Chrome here. The array list reference from Java. And what I did this, if I go back, I just did a Google search on Java array lists, and I'm looking for the Oracle entry. Here it is. Click on the Oracle entry, and it gives me what an array list is and the abilities of array lists. So here's an add, another kind of add, and add all, and so on. So we can insert, we can remove, we can clone, and so on. These are all the different things the array list can do. For the AP exam, we are interested in a subset of the methods. The AP, College Board has provided everyone, when you take the test, with a quick lookup. And one of the things for the quick lookup is the Java utilities list of methods. Gentlemen, thank you. So we can get the size of the array list. We can get an add object to the array list. We can add an object at a certain index, or it's actually before the certain index. And it tells you what the things do in the comments behind the interface. So these are selected parts of the interface, or selected parts of the methods of the array list that are interested for you in the AP exam. So let us look at each and every one of these interfaces, and we're going to play with it in my Eclipse. So the demo will cover these methods for the list, for the array list. So let's get started. So in order to get started, I need a class. I'm going to make a public class. The name of the class must be the same as the name of the file, which is ArrayDemo. Class has scope, and scope is delineated with open and closed curly braces. Everything that I create inside the open and closed curly braces for this class is a member of this class. What I want to do in this class is run something, so I need a public static void function called main, and this function will take as a single parameter a string array, and I can name, array, that I can name anything I want to. I'm going to call mine args, which is the conventional name for the arguments coming into the main function. So now I have a main function, and my main function can do anything, and I'm just going to print out that this main function system.out.println is we are demo of array list and arrays. Let's run this and see what happens. It's going to compile, which means it's found a main, and it prints the system out. So I've made a hello world, effectively. The next step is to look at the array list and decide what I want to do with the array list. So the array list, we want to look at the methods, and we just want that list that we got from the College Board. So we need size, the two adds, the get, the set, and the remove. So I can write these down and move it over so I can see it, and just write this down in my comments. I need to do size. I need to do add element. I need to do add index element. I need to do get index. I need to do set index element. I need to do remove. Remove looks like index. So for all of these, E is an element, and I is an index. So let's create an array list. Let's do that first. We need to create one. Create an array list. Then use add to put elements in. And then we're going to use get to access an element. We're going to use set to mutate an element. And we're going to use remove to remove an element. And we're going to test each of these steps. So this is very much like a black box test. By doing this test, we can figure out how to use the array list. In the College Board, you can be asked to use an array list, to use the adds, gets, sets, and removes to figure out what the array list will look afterward. Remember, there are two adds, and there's a one get, one set, one remove. So let's create an array list first. To create an array list, we need to make a variable. Make a ref variable to the array lists. In the AP exams, most of the references are lists, and you have to make some kind of element in your list. So let's make an integer. Let's make a string array. So we're going to make a string array list. We're going to call it myStrings. And right now, Eclipse does not know what a list is. So we're going to tell Eclipse what a list is by importing list from the Java utilities. When I do that, we do the import function here, import Java util list. This tells me what a list is. I also need array list, import java.util.arraylist. Whoopsie, if I spelled Java right, it'll work. And so now I have array lists and arrays. This function here declares a variable called myStrings, which refers to a list. Currently, myStrings refers to null. If you create a reference variable and do not assign it a value, that reference variable defaults to null, and null means it does not reference anything. We need to reference something, so we're going to assign myStrings to a new class instance. The class we want is an array list. This array list must hold the same kind of things as the list, which are strings. And we use the constructor for the array list. So now my strings holds an array list. We can see what it holds by printing it. System.out.println, and let's call this a new array list, and we'll see what's in there. Plus, what's it called? My strings. When we are creating a black box test, I frequently like to run it to make sure it's working. So far my demo announces the demo. I've created a new array list, and let's see what's inside. So if I run it, the array list already knows how to print its contents. It'll print an open and closed square braces, and the contents goes inside. Currently it's empty. That's what we want to see. See? So let's put this on the new line. Show or prints and empty. Let's look at size. If we run size, we should see a size of 0. So let's print that. System.out.println empty size is plus my strings.size. Size will tell us how many elements are in the array. Size is a function, which means it makes a parameter list. Size has no parameters. When we run this, we should see 0 elements. Empty size is 0. Perfect. So next step is to add elements to the list. There are 2 ways to add elements. So let's do some adds, and you will see something like this on the AP exam. My strings.add, and we need some kind of string. So let's make a new string, or we can use a string literal. Let's do hello, and let's do my strings.add world. And so now the question is, does add element, add to the front or the back of the list? Oopsie, not add all, just add. Okay, gentlemen, please. So we look at the add interface. It says appends object to the end of the list, returns true. So if add works, we get a true out, and the objects should go to the end of the list. So the objects go to the end. So the ref says E goes to the end of the list. So we should see hello, and then world, not world, and then hello. So what do we see? Let's print it and find out. My strings, oopsie, sorry, my mistake. System.out.println add hello world, oopsie, plus my strings. So here we're doing a test again. All we need to do to test is throw my strings to the print line. My strings will print. We should see hello and then world, not the other way around. And when we run it, we see hello and then world. Right? Hello here and then world. So far, so good. So what does the other add do? So let's test the other add. The other add takes an index and an element, and it adds in front of the index. Index must be 0 is the smallest and size of the array is the largest. It must be between those two in that range inclusive. Moving elements at position index and higher to the right adds 1 to their indices and adjusts the size. So right now the size should be 2, so let's print the size. System.out.println new size is 2 plus my strings.size. It is. New size is 2, yes. I should put a question mark there. Okay, now we need to add using the I. So we do myStrings dot add an index. Let's add this one to index 1. And the element is Bob. And we do myStrings, my strings, not my string, my strings. MyStrings dot add to index 3, Helen. And then myStrings dot add to index 3 again. And we want Gary. What should I see? Okay, so I'm going to ask someone. What should I see?
Alright, is the hello world still there?
You tell me, have I removed it or deleted it?
Oh, you have it. So I was just asking.
It's still there.
It said you should see hello, but not world. That's what it said.
What should I see?
Hello.
Hello, Bob, world, Gary. Hello, Bob, world, hello, Bob, world.
Okay, I hear hello, Bob, world,
World. It says not world.
Helen, and Gary.
Where?
Okay, what else? Quadro, what do you think I see?
Wait, is it not supposed to say world? It says in the statement, like, should see hello, world, not world.
Hello, world, not world?
Wait, does the thing replace it or push it? I don't know.
What does add do? So let's look at add again. Add appends or inserts at position index, moving elements at that position and higher to the right. So it inserts, squeezes the new string in between the old strings at that index. So the new string will go to that index. So this Bob is going to go to index 1. And whoever's already at index 1 is going to get pushed back.
Well, then Gary, Helen.
So it should hello Bob world Gary Helen. All right, is this our guess? Hello Bob world Gary Helen? Sure? Quadro, what do you think it is?
Wait,
Hello is 0.
so.
World is 1.
Okay, hello is 0, world is 1.
And then you add Bob, so then at world, so world becomes 2, Bob becomes 1.
Okay, Bob is now 1 and world is 2.
And putting Helen just places it at 3.
Okay,
But then Gary pushes Helen.
okay. So then we have Gary at 3 and Helen at 4. So we should see hello, because that's 0, then Bob, then world, hello Bob world, Gary Helen. So we should see this one. Does everyone agree?
Yeah.
Is there someone who says we should see some different ordering? Matt, you think there should have a different ordering or like this one?
Should have a different order.
Okay.
Should be hello world.
Hello, world, Gary, Helen.
No, you're forgetting Bob.
So where does Bob go?
After world.
After world. So hello world, Bob, Gary, Helen, like this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Who? Okay. How many people think the first way? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyone else the first way? I see 5 people. How many people think the second way? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyone else? It's a tie.
Sean says it must be wrong.
All right, so let's find out which way it is. So to find out, all we need to do is print it. System.out.println.
I don't know if they'll still.
And this is the 5 things. Oopsie. After 5 adds plus my strings. Okay, here we go. Hello, Bob World Gary Helen. Hello, Bob World Gary Helen wins.
Facts and knowledge.
All right, so if we look at the add with an index, add index Bob is going to add the new element Bob at this index 1. Currently, before we do this add with Bob, we have hello at 0 and we have world at 1. When we add, Bob goes to 1 and world gets pushed back to 2. So when we're done, it's hello 0, world 1, I'm sorry, Bob 1 and world 2. Hello 0, Bob 1, world 2, and so on. If I insert in front everything, like if I insert into 1 again, it should push everything back. So let's insert into 1 again. My strings dot add into 1, and let's do what's left here. How about Saturn? So now we should see hello is 0, Saturn becomes 1, and then everything else. So it was Bob, World, Gary, Gary, and Helen. So let's print it and see what we get. After 6 plus my strings. Hello, Saturn. So Saturn goes into where position 1 was. Everything else gets pushed back. So Saturn's squeezed in between hello and Bob. So we see the 2 adds, and you'll have to remember how the 2 adds work. You will be given a cheat sheet on the College Board exam. So you should be able to have this interface Java list, and it should tell you what it does. So we see add and add int, and this will give you a reference for the Java list. Okay, let's look at the next thing. The next thing on Java list is this get and the set. I'm sorry. So I'm hearing talking. Gentlemen, if I get too boring for you and you feel a need to talk, we can do this in smaller groups. So should I stop the demo and do the rest later, or should continue with the demo? Great. So if I continue with the demo, I need it quiet. So please, if you are going to talk to your neighbor, do so in such a way that I cannot hear you. Okay, so the next thing to explore is this get and set. Explore, get, and set. Let's look at the manual and try to figure out how they work. Get takes an index. Set takes an index and an element. So get takes an index, and it returns the element at I. What happens if we give an improper I? Doesn't say. Okay, we can test it out and find out. Whoopsie. Where am I? Oh, I'm up here at this get. I want to remove these. I need to move these down. Sorry, let me move these down. Let me move them down here. Here we go. This is better. And then set. Set is index and the new element. So replaces element at I with E. So let's play this and see what happens. So my strings dot get. What element do we want? How about Gary? Gary is in, where am I? 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gary's in index 4. This should return Gary. Oopsie. So let's print this and see what we get. So if I use get 4, I get Gary. What happens if we get someplace else? Let's try getting 0. See what happens. Get 0 gives me hello. That's good. What happens if I try to get something that's not there? Let's try that. So what's the last thing is, where am I? Helen is 5. I'm sorry, we put Saturn here. 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Helen is 5. Let's try getting 6 and see what happens. Now there is no 6. I do not know what happens when you try to get an element that is not there. It crashes. Look at that. Boom. Crashes.
What type of error is that?
This is an index out of bounds exception. So we can catch this index out of bounds with a try catch, but let's not do that for now. So it will crash if the index is out of bounds. All right, so we know what happens if it crashes. We don't want it to crash, so I'm going to comment that one out. Okay, now let's play with set and see what set does. Set should replace the element at index I with the new element. So let's say we don't like Gary, we want to make Gary go backwards. So what's that? Erag. Erag. So we're going to do erag, exactly. My strings, and we're going to do set. Set takes an index. Gary is at, let's see, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to replace that with erag. 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 And when I'm done, Gary should become erag. So let's print out what we have. System.out.println set for erag plus my strings. So Gary should be replaced with erag, and Gary was replaced with erag. So the set just replaces the element at index I with the element erag. So now we see how getters and setters work. You'll probably see a multiple choice question where you'll see a series of adds and sets and gets, and you're to print the output or the result of the array after you're done with the gets and sets. Okay, what else do we have? We have this remove. Remove replaces, let's see, remove the element from position index, moving all the other elements to the higher elements down by 1 and adjust the size. So if I do a remove, I should pull something out of the array. Notice that set just changes it, the array elements stay. Notice that add adds a new element, but the old elements remain. They are not removed or deleted. But remove removes a single element. So my strings dot remove, and who do we want to remove here? How about world? We remove world. World is in index 2. So index 2 I'm removing, and all I have to do for remove is 2. If we look at remove, remove returns the element removed. Notice that the element comes out. So let's print this remove. System.out.println remove 2 plus my strings remove, and then we need an after. And then system.out.println after remove plus my strings. So if this works, we should see what got removed. What got removed? What's at 2? Is world. I think we're in this one, right? Hello, Bob, world, Gary. No, we're down here at this one. Hello, Saturn, Bob. So Bob gets removed. See, Bob, removed. And then afterward, Bob is removed. It was hello, Saturn, Bob, world, erag, Helen. And so we should see hello, Saturn, Bob gets removed, world, erag, and Helen. So let's see what we get. Hello, Saturn, world, erag, let me move that out of the way, Helen, which is what we should see. So this is what you need to know that a list can do. You can get the size of the list. We can add a new element to the end of the list. We can add a new element to some position right before some position in the list. We can see the element without destroying it. We can replace the element with something else using the set. And we can remove the element and remove the element completely. Now again, there are a lot of other methods that you can use with array lists, such as clear. Clear removes all the elements. Whoopsie, let me go back. Clone gives you a new list. That is a shallow copy, and which is awful, but I'll tell you about that some other time. Not yet. For each, you have a for each here. Ensure capacity, there's a get. We talked about get index of. You could look for an element in the list. You might see that one. Is empty, tells you if it's empty or not. Iterators I won't talk about, and so on. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do with the list. You can sort the list with a comparator. So let's try sort. See what we get. I haven't done sort, so I don't know what comparator to add, but I'm going to guess one is called greater than dot sort. Comparator, I do not know. No? Let's try null and see what happens. This should fail on me. Should not sort. Yeah, I didn't sort at all. After remove. Oh, didn't do anything. I don't know what it did. So let's see what it did. So I'm just playing with one of the options. And as you learn any language, I highly recommend that you play with everything you find to see just how it works. Hello, Helen, hello. It's sorted. Look at that. Alphabetical order. All we need to do is say sort, and your strings are in alphabetical order. What a deal with null. It does a default sort, which looks like less than. Okie dokie. What's next? Arrays. Let's do arrays. I'm sorry. Is there anyone who has a question or something to clarify about array lists?
So sort functions legal on the test?
Yeah. They may say you have to write your own sort function, and then just having your function call sort, that wouldn't work. But they want to see your algorithm, right? So you could say, please sort these array lists of strings. Make it like use insertion sort. And then instead of using insertion sort, you make your insertion sort, and then inside insertion sort, you're calling the array list sort. That would be cheating. And then they wouldn't give you credit. But if they say sort this list, they don't tell you how. You can sort it any way you want to. So then calling the built-in sort is legal. When you get out to the outside world, anything that works is legal. Yes. As long as you don't infringe copyright protection. Otherwise, it's legal.
Well, what if the copyrights only apply to the United States?
And you're in a different country?
Yes.
Then it's legal.
Yes.
Except in America. So if you're trying to sell to America, your competitors might try to get copyright infringement to block your sales there. All right, so next step, arrays. So an array uses a simple variable, or actually any kind of type. The syntax for an array is a type, square brackets, reference variable, equals, new, type, and range. Or, it's a syntax, sorry. Or, syntax is type, square brackets, reference variable, equals, and this is an initialization list. So there are two ways to create a new array. Arrays are held in reference variables. So we can make an int array. Let's do that. Int array, and I call this my ints. And when I declare this, my ints is an array of unknown size and is currently null. Let's make this length, not size. So in order to make a real array, we have to assign that reference to an instance of the array. And to do that, we're going to make a new int array, and let's put 10 ints in there. I think that's it. So now I have an array called myInts with 10 ints in it. Notice the ints are not initialized. So if ints are not initialized, if the array elements not initialized, then gets default value for that type. In this case, that would be 0. Ints is 0 by default. So we see a whole bunch of zeros. Now printing arrays is generally done with a for loop. There is a, I think it's arrays. Let's see. Arrays dot print array. No. There's a way to print arrays that's fancy. Otherwise, we use a for loop. For int I equals 0, I is less than my ints.length. I plus plus, this will iterate through the array. Iterates through. And we want to print stuff in here. Do I have an open curly brace? I do. System.out.print my ints of I plus a comma, whoopsie, space. And when I'm done with the for loop, I do a new line. System.out.print line. Nothing. So let's look at this code a little bit. We saw for loops yesterday, and a for loop will do a statement or loop statements multiple times. In this case, I'm starting from an I of 0 to an I of mid-length. Let me spell length correctly. To an I that is my ints.length. When you create a new array, the length of the array is specified in your square brackets, or the length of the array is the number of elements in the initialization list. This list is comma delimited.
Wait, length is what?
Length is how many elements I have in the array. Currently this array has 10 elements in it. So I'm printing out the values of each of those 10 elements. To access a specific element, we use the syntax here. So let's look at the syntax. To access one element, use the array name or the ref variable name, the square bracket, and an index. For example, my ints of 3 gets element at index 3.
Oh, so then size is the amount of elements, right?
I do not believe a standard array has size. We can find out. Length is how many elements it has in it for a standard array. For the array list, it was size. Notice the array list size tells you how many elements are in there. For a basic array, it's length, which is not a function. Notice length is not a function for the basic array. So here we have a primitive array or a simple array of size 10 or length 10. And length tells you how many elements it has. The only way to change the number of elements, my ints does not have an add, right? We could try add, it's not there. My ints, what can we do with my ints? We can clone equals get hash notify toString wait and length. So if you use the member access operator, you see what members have in a basic array. And this is what we have here. We can make a brand new array that's cloned. We could check to see if this array equals another object or another array, if they're the same array. We can get the class of the array, hash code for it. I have no idea what notify does or notify all. We can turn it to a string. This will just tell us the hash code for the array, and so on. And what I want to do here is print the array. To print the array, I'm using a for loop. There is another way to print the array. Let's go look at that. Let's go find it. Now, I don't know exactly what it is, so I'm going to go find it. To go find it, I'm going to do a Google search. And I'm going to look for arrays. I want to print a Java array. So in the Google search, I'm going to do print Java array. And let's see if they have it here. Print, no. Static method, no. Simplest way to print array. Here it is, arrays toString. So in Stack Overflow, it says use the arrays toString and pass an array. So here's one way to print the array using a for loop. And then here's the toString way, arrays.toString way. So I do system.out.println. Arrays is a Java package, I think. Or no, it's a class, toString, and I pass an array. And the array I'm going to pass it is my ints. That should be the other way to print the array. So let's see what we get here. So here's my array with spaces, and here's the arrays to string way. Puts the square brackets on each end. Each element is comma and space delimited. So two ways to print. There's the arrays to string. What you will see on the AP exam is the for loop way to access and print elements of the array. So then how do we set them to values? To set this array's values, we can set an individual value using the way to access it. So I could say my int of 6 gets the value 66. And then let's print the array again. I'm going to use the arrays to string method to print the array because it's a one-liner. And here I've set 6 to 66. And we see that after I set position 6 to 66, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gets 66. So we can set an element using the index in the square brackets. This accesses a single element out of the array. Access for either setting, here I'm putting a value into the array, or getting. Up here, I'm getting a value out of the array to print it. So we can use this access or this indexing way to get at an element. Both set and gets can get the element with that index. What happens if you index outside the array? What do you think is going to happen? If I do my ints 152, which there does not exist, equals 6, 3, what's going to happen? Error, right? It should crash. Let's see if it crashes. It does indeed crash. This is an array index out of bounds exception, which is what we saw earlier. Index out of bounds exception. So it crashes. All right, so what else do we need to do with arrays? For an array, you're going to have to insert into an array. And your choice is to use an ArrayList, which is easy to insert into, or an array itself. So insert. For a basic array, you need to create a new array that is one larger than the old. You'll need to copy old elements back 1. And then you'll need to write in new element. So it's hard, right? All of this is your add. So the array lists are much easier than this. The hard part is you need to create a new array that's larger than the old. For instance, let's do it this one. We have 10 elements. I would make a new array, int array temp equals new int of my ints dot length plus 1. Then we need to do my insert. So the first thing is copy everything. Copy up to insert into new temp array. So I do a for loop. Int I equals 0. Oopsie. I is less than my insert position. My insert position, let's say it's 3. I plus plus. And we copy into, so I say temp of I gets my ints of I. Then I need to put the new one in. And so we see temp of 3 gets the new value. Let's call it 33. And then I need to push everything else back. For int I equals 3. I is less than my ints dot length. I plus plus. And here we see temp of I plus 1 gets my ints of I. And then let's print temp, see what's in there. So we do system dot out dot print line inserted at 3 plus arrays dot toString, and we're doing temp. And let's see what happens. So if I did this right, I will not have an index out of bounds error. If I did it right, I will have an index out of bounds error. So this is the hard way to insert a new element into an array. The easy way is to use an ArrayList and use add.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't be able to do that?
No, you should be able to use the ArrayList at add, but you will see something like you might see something like this on a primitive, and they'll ask you what's going on, or how to use a primitive array to insert into it, but you don't need to make the array bigger. In other words, the last element is going to be pushed off the array and fall and be lost. Okay, so that's arrays. The next thing are dimensions. So this is the fun stuff. This is the tricky stuff. Fun, tricky dimensions. So above, we have one-dimensional array lists and arrays. A two-dimensional array is an array of arrays, or of 1D arrays. A 3D array is an array of 2D arrays, and so on. So let's make a two-dimensional array. Let's do some kind of printing thing. We're going to do a character array, 2 dimensions. Oh, I have 1 minute left. Okay, so let me do this later. So we've done one-dimensional arrays and array lists. For one-dimensional arrays and array lists, you must know how to iterate through them for the AP exam. You must know how to add, subtract, and delete from them. Tomorrow I will show two-dimensional arrays, and then we'll do the next topic. Thank you.